So the last example I'd like to cover is the dynamic target line. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and start from scratch again. So to do the dynamic target line, I'm going to start again with my ops data. And I'm going to go ahead and group by state. You'll see why I'm grouping by state in a moment. And I want to do sum of amounts. So I'm going to go ahead and clip this to my dashboard. Again, I encourage you to label your steps effectively. I'm just going to go ahead and clip this as Dashboard Designer. There I have the accounts by state. So now I'm going to switch this to the opportunity name. And I'm going to sort descending. So I'm going to figure out what are my largest value opportunities. You may want to filter on open business, etc. But just for demo purposes, I want as much data as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the account billing state on here. I picked billing state because I wanted to kind of showcase a couple things with this demonstration. For those of you who have not used GeoJSON that much, it's been getting a lot of attention lately. We do have these map charts. And once I select the map, we do provide a couple that you can utilize, U.S. states being one of them. So if your data conforms to what we're expecting, you can go ahead and use the U.S. states JSON. And I'm going to get rid of the legend just for display purposes. I want to have this fill up as much of the screen as possible. So there I have my items by state. So now I drag in my opportunities. I'm sort descending by amount. Again, I'm also going to hide the legend here for display purposes so that you guys can see as much of this as possible. And I want to add a target line. So here I have my reference line. I'm going to set this as 5 million. And I'm going to label it as 5 million and change the color to something much easier to see. How about a bright red? I'm going to go ahead and choose that. I'm going to exit out of there. And so now I have my target line and my max opportunities. And if I preview, right, faceting rules apply. As I click on states, you can see that the reference line has nothing to do with the data and is a little odd way out there as you're talking through different options. So what's a simple formula that we could apply? Let's look for the median amount for a state. Super easy to do, right? So how do we do that? We can go ahead and create a step. And we're going to continue to use the MyOpsData data set. And we're just going to look for the median amount. So the median amount of all my deals of the whole world is 662K. I'm going to hit done. And so here I have that amount number one. I can drag on here. Looks a little odd as a bar chart. Maybe you want it as a donut. I'm just going to do this little number widget more for debugging purposes, and you'll see in a minute what's going on. So what do we have? Our median deal is 662K. If I preview, you can see that the median deal is definitely different for different states. So we can use this information to make the target line more interesting. So what are we going to do? I have a couple things I have set up for you here. First, let's look at changing the label, right? So we always have the label as 5 million. You can use the label as the amount, but I'm going to try to make this example as kind of all over the map as possible, literally all over the map. And so what I'm going to do here is show you a kind of a little detailed example of how one approach that we would encourage people to do if you wanted to change the label. So to change the label, it's going to be a pretty sophisticated binding if you haven't done bindings before. But if we break it down, it's not too bad. So still the same kind of inside-out execution, right? So first, we're going to look at the billing state selection. So I'm going to look at whatever the user picks in their states. And this is a cell operation. So if a user picks multiple states, we are zero index. We're going to pick the first one. And the data that's coming through with all the state information, maybe there's an industry as well. We don't care about that. We only want the billing state. And we're going to look at the cell value of what they selected, the first one, the zero index first one. So if I select California, its billing state is CA, or if I select another state, I'm going to see its abbreviation. If the user, so the tricky part here is, so the next thing you can see we're evaluating is this set of parentheses inside this coalesce function. Coalesce, sophisticated word. If you haven't seen it before, it might be a little scary, but it's fine. It's basically saying that it's expecting two arguments. So this is the first input. If this input does not evaluate to anything, and that happens when the user has not made any selection, right? If they haven't selected anything, then this is an empty input. And because this is empty, Coalesce detects that and has the default of all states. Now, probably an easier serialization to understand is as string. So once all this is done, it's just going to give you the string value. So that is our binding. I believe my step name for the billing states is correct. Yes. So account ID billing state _1 is the name of my step. So that allows me to copy all of this, and I can go into the JSON, and I'm changing the label, which was 5 million. So now I'm changing all of this, and notice the formatting is a little off. You don't have to reformat. When you save, it will automatically format for you. So now I put the label in here, and I hit done. And you can see already that it says all states. It says all states because the Coalesce detected nothing was selected, so it used its default. When I preview, if I pick a state, I can see which state was selected, right? But the reference line is still way out there. Great that it's showing you what state was selected, but that line is way out there, not ideal. Let's go back into edit mode. And the next change we will make is to update the value for that line. So I've been talking through the bindings. We're going to look at the amount number one step, and we're going to look at its result. Now, results bindings are very powerful because they will incorporate all the filter faceting a user may have done. So results bindings, highly encourage you to figure out ways to use those. There are lots of great things you can do with results binding. And we're going to take the median amount. How did I know median amount? Again, when I was creating this binding, I would have gone and edited this input to my binding. I go to SACWL mode, and I see that it's median amount. So again, copy paste, try to avoid generating these strings so that you don't have any issues. So I now have my binding for the value. I'm going to go back and edit my JSON, and luckily I'm still near where the value was because I was changing the label. So now I can replace the value, and again, I can just hit done, and if I hit Command E, you can see that it automatically formatted, so I didn't need to do anything special. So now we have the value in here, and we hit done, and we can see that we've already shifted to this median amount. And what happens when we start making different selections? If I go ahead and preview, if I pick California, it's got a different median amount. I'm in the $475K range. If I pick Florida, I've got a $1.7 million median amount. And now that reference line is changing dynamically. Obviously, this is a very simple formula, but you could imagine that you could change this to some very sophisticated formulas if you want. And even so, we're displaying the median amount. That is not required. That is optional. I delete that median amount. Everything still works as we had constructed it. And also, I do want to call attention when you go into edit mode, while this amount underscore number one is not on the dashboard directly, by being used in a binding, it is listed as an active step. And I just want to call attention to that so that you know you have no risk of these steps appearing to be unused if you're not directly displaying them on the dashboard. So with that, I had not captured any questions yet, but let me double check. Let me go out to the community and see if there's anything out there. That's what I had intended to cover. And I'm not seeing any questions. There was one mention. So what are the guidelines for using images in chart? Where should they be stored in Salesforce? How should they be referenced? So thank you, Peter, for that question. Sorry I didn't catch that in context. So when we're using the images, it's best to store them in your instance in the documents, or you're using things that are on the user, like the chatter user. So you definitely want to store those images inside of Salesforce. And the same way that I used a first of the user's chatter, a case statement to generate the strings for the URLs, that's also a common way to generate these images, and those can reference the documents that you've uploaded into your Salesforce instance. And so we want them in your Salesforce instance so that the security is there, and that that all that information gets presented in a secure, proper way in your instance. So thanks for the question. And I'm looking, and I'm not seeing any other questions out there. Hope I didn't miss any. We got about 10 minutes left. Looks like there might be a question direct live. So thanks for the updates. Yeah, for Windows, Notepad++ with a JSON plugin is a good option to use. And so on the map, if I did a multi-select, yeah, so I have intentionally disabled a multi-select. If I did a multi-select, let's see if I can, I don't even know what would happen. Let me see if I can demonstrate this. I'm not sure what happened. But what I would do is, if you wanted to do a multi-select, you may have to have a query process those results, and we won't be able to do that in the 10 minutes that are left. But let's see if we can do, so we'll change this to column, account, billing state, selection 1, and if we are doing a column, we change the arguments, and now doing this on the fly is always dangerous. So likely to have something break. Let's see what happens. All right. Now we need to change this step to support multi-selection, messing with the GoToWebinar. So multiple selection is now enabled on that chart widget. So if I select California and I select Florida, you can see that we're getting a very precise kind of JSON element in return. Thing is, the reference line, the value is correct, right? Because faceting is taking care of that. We didn't have to do anything to make this median value become updated. Yeah. Right. So there is a join function. You're right. Thanks, Peter. There's a join function you can use, and that would allow you to unpack this array and show this as a proper string. I don't use that very often. Let's see. Join that on, oh, yeah. I might screw something up. Very likely I will make a mistake here. So we pick California and Oregon, or sorry, Nevada. Embarrassing myself around states I should know better. There is Oregon. And thank you for the join function hint, Peter. Great thought, and that seems to work okay. Maybe you want a comma space, but you get the gist of it there. So thank you, everyone, for jumping into this webinar. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Peter, for pushing the envelope. Hope you all have a good end of your Friday and a great weekend. Thank you for joining. See you all next time.